welcome back to another edition of Check Call. Don't forget to subscribe to Check Call, the newsletter on FreightWaves.com if you haven't already. Today we welcome Ayman Hanno, Director of Freight Forwarding Operations at ITF Group, and he leads up Forward Now, a solution within one of ITF Group's suite of solutions. Welcome to the show, Ayman.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be with you today. Thank you.
I am excited for today because this is something I've been wanting to do for a while, kind of a return to basics, if you will, a freight forwarding 101. And who better to do that than you? Before we get too far into that, let's get some background on you and kind of how you got started at ITF and then this solution Forward Now.
Wow, ITF started roughly like 12 years ago, serving the domestic transportation, like full truckloads and less than truckloads, back and forth from there, from side to side, ocean to ocean. And recently, to better serve our customers, our CEO Sam Borhan decided to get into the global freight forwarding as a comprehensive solutions to present to our current and future customers for sure. So most of the people, actually, most of the customers or most of the shippers, consignees, they do moves distribution within the US. And now we need to bring them their cargo from outside or have their cargo delivered anywhere worldwide.
I kind of like that you guys have really taken, the needs of your customers and created this new solution. I don't know, it's something that I always like to see. I like to see that growth coming of instead of just like, oh yeah, we have this that can work for you. You guys really doubled down and said, no, we're going to create this whole other solution that will not only work for our customers, but will work for other people as well. And I don't know, call me a sucker for growth, but I like that you guys took that approach.
Yes, it is. It's a good way to go to the market, to go to the people, go to our customers, say, hey, we're not only moving your cargo domestically or as I said, from state to state or from Canada or wherever. Now we can now bring your cargo from China, from Vietnam, Europe, Middle East, anywhere that we can have an opportunity to grow. We're with you. The same thing if you're exporting and we need to enhance the U.S. economy in general. So having our products, our producers being sent, exported outside of the U.S., that's the marvelous thing to do.
So jumping on that part, freight forwarding, it's a thing. Everybody thinks it's like that kind of, you think you know what it is, but then as soon as you start to like dig into it a little bit more, you're like, I don't know, maybe I don't know what it is. So when it comes to kind of how a traditional 3PL or a traditional freight brokerage operates and how a traditional freight forwarder operates, what are some of those main differences? Because, not all freight forwarders can be 3PLs and not all 3PLs like have freight forwarding services. So what are kind of those main differences between the two?
That's a very good question. Thank you. And okay, let me put it this way. The freight forwarding or the freight forwarding is the coordination and management of international and domestic moves of cargo on behalf of shippers. So a freight forwarder acts as an intermediary between a shipper and various transportation service providers, handling anything from documentations, custom brokerage, to booking cargo and ensuring the safe arrival, the safe delivery of the cargo. Now we come to the 3PL and the freight brokers. The freight forwarders handle the end-to-end shipments, including customs documentation, warehousing, cargo tracking, and multimodal transportation solutions. While the freight brokers primarily connects the shipper with the service provider, and they're not responsible. They do not take responsibility of the cargo. As a freight forwarders, we take responsibility of the freight. While the 3PL is a broader supply chain solution. In other words, they include inventory management, cargo like warehousing, distribution of cargo, while freight forwarder focus mainly on the transportation part of it.
I really like that breakdown because it's something that's just easy to kind of as at its to boil down in its essence. Obviously, there's a lot more to being a 3PL or a freight broker, and there's a lot more to freight forwarding, but it kind of comes down to that liability part of it where I think it would I think it would be a very interesting day for the day that a 3PL or a freight broker takes liability for a shipment from beginning to end. Because what a day would that be?
It's very interesting when you start a shipment, or let's say a container, from anywhere around the world, and you keep tracking it till it reaches at the point of pickup, and then it reaches the ocean port, and then they load it on the vessel, and you know that it is on water now, coming crossing the Suez Canal, crossing the Mediterranean, crossing the Atlantic, crossing the Pacific. You can feel that. You can feel that there is, and then it arrives at final destination, and then you take it from there. So it's really fun, and I consider myself every day in a different country, speaking with different people, different languages, different concepts, and mentalities. So it's fun.
I feel like it's gotta be, like, the best way to feel like you're traveling the world, but also, like, not having to deal with jet lag.
That is correct. That is correct. That's absolutely good explanation. That's what it is.
So, on that same kind of international vein, freight forwarders are still so we know that, like, they're different from 3PLs and freight brokers, but they're still different than a customs broker, correct?
That is correct. Uh, Freight forwarders would add the customs clearance or customs brokerage as an additional service to what they provide to their customers. So, in other words, uh, uh, a freight uh, a freight forwarding could have a customs broker service on it, while a customs broker not necessarily will be a freight forwarder.
Because how much more confusing can we make transportation to explain to literally anyone? It's actually really funny when people are like, "Can you explain the supply chain to me?" And I'm like, "No." Like, how much time do you have? Because if it's less than like 4 hours, no chance in heck. No chance.
I mean, what I just said is just like very few points that would to identify what everyone would do. A freight forwarder is people who will be responsible mainly on the transportation from end to end, from point to point, whether it is by ocean, air, or over the road surface. And while the customs broker will concentrate only on receiving the cargo into your existing country and make sure that it complies with all requirement and regulations.
So, this is just a random question that I have. If I'm a freight forwarder and I have a shipment, because I will admit international is my weakest area. So, because I did a lot of domestic back in the day. So when if I have a shipment that let's say I'm exporting something to Europe and it has to stop in the UK, but its final destination is France, does it have to go through customs in each of those countries?
No, not necessarily, because it's gonna move through the supply chain in the United Kingdom under what's called imbond, which is as if it did not touch the land, the English land, the United Kingdom land, as if it is moving from abroad, from all over, till it reaches the final destination in France, Paris, for an example. Once it is there, then we do the customs clearance for it. Hope I answered.
That makes a lot more sense because I was like, "Man, that would suck if you had to do customs paperwork for every single ship like, country it stops in." And, I mean, sometimes like, when you're, like, exporting or importing stuff from, Asia, like, it's gotta go a bunch of different places before it ends up in its final spot. And I w that's why I was like, "Dang, that's a lot of paperwork for one potential shipment." But just kidding. It just kind of hovers like it's not really there, but it's there.
I can give you a very good example of this because it's currently what we're handling at this point. Like shipments out of Middle Asia, where the country is landlocked. There's no oceans, there is no beaches, there is no water around that country. just desert in the middle of nowhere. And then you need to have that cargo, this cargo moves crossing 2, 3 countries' borders till it reaches a water body. And where there is a water body, you have a port. So you export it from there, and it goes and further till it reaches wherever it's going to go. So that happens, yeah.
I mean, I feel like it has to happen because, like you said, not everyone has like a good seaport, and not everyone has like not every country has that ability, but they can still import and export things no problem. I just was from a paperwork perspective, like, man, could you imagine trying to track down like 4 different countries of customs paperwork to then have at the end going, but see, we did it in every country because that sounds like a nightmare.
True, true, true.
So, Um, that being said, are all freight forwarders, I think you touched on it a little bit, but I might have missed it. Are all freight forwarders customs brokers?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. They might add this as an additional service, as a value added service to their customers. Otherwise, like if I don't have a customs brokerage entity within my company, I would ask the importer of record, hey, who's handling your customs brokerage services? He would name a company, or I would recommend one of my partners to him.
I feel like I'm not gonna lie. This might just be my personal experience because I, again, don't have much experience in the international side of things. I feel like the customs broker would be the worst job out of everything in importing and exporting because like it's so much paperwork, and if one thing goes wrong, it's like a very expensive mistake.
Again, I wouldn't agree fully on what you just said, with my full respect, because in my experience, for an example, we used to clear a complete vessel of one product, and it's just a click of a button. Actually, everything that's being done now on your here's an example. Actually, when we used to bring bananas from South America, and it comes to Los Angeles for an example, the whole ship has nothing in it but bananas. So it's just one click of a button that is cleared.
That's fair. I think I was picturing like the big ship that's got like T-shirts, bananas,
Exactly.
strawberries, like semiconductor chips, like it's got everything on there because to me that sounds like it would be a nightmare of just filling out paperwork. But if it's just a whole boat of bananas, like, you know, that's easy. I don't know though. I would still take LTL shipments over that any day, which I know is its own brand of really crazy.
It is. It is. It is. It is.
So when it comes to like a freight forwarder, um, and maybe and it could just be like this is that like it's a kind of a generic thing for the entire industry. How does a freight forwarder determine its pricing? So, for full truckload, you pay like a rate per mile, and on LTL, you pay on a hundredweight or like a agreed pricing contract. How does it work on the freight forwarding side of things? Like if I'm a 3PL or a shipper and I'm looking to go partner with a freight forwarder, what are those things I need to know kind of going in of like this is how they price things. These are kind of me going in informed.
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. The we determine actually the mode of transportation and then the pricing based on the urgency, the commodity. Um, uh, for an example, if you're shipping a weekly publisher, a weekly magazine, for an example, you cannot ship it by ocean because by the time it reaches Europe, it's done.
I mean, you could, but it'd be like a week late. It'd be like just how
It,
old is this news?
it must be by air. So this is one. Like if you have a huge piece of machinery, again, it probably would be too costly to put on an airplane. But again, you ship it by rail or by truck. Anyway, let me go and do it. Freight forwarding pricing depends on several factors like the modes of transportation, fuel surcharge, gas pricing, market fluctuations, If it's container size or out of gauge, how would you move something like this? And then customs duties and port fees. So if you talk about the mode of transportation, you have like four or maybe five modes of transportation. But let me put it like this: it's air, ocean includes seas, oceans, waterways, and then trucking, and of course the rail is one of the major modes of transportation here in the US. Each different mode of transportation costs based on the distance, urgency, and type of cargo. Uh, it- Other things that would add to the pricing of moving a piece of cargo from point to point is cargo. I'm sorry, is gas fuel surcharge that could fluctuate very dramatically, uh, and then you would think a couple of times before putting this cargo on an airplane versus ship it like LCL as you mentioned. The size of the cargo as well, as I mentioned before, if it's a huge piece of cargo, it's not going to fit on any airplane. Uh, no way. Uh, yeah. And then international shipment requires additional regulatory compliance. We need to make sure that we comply with U.S. export or U.S. import, or even the other country that you're sending the cargo to. Would they accept this type of commodity? What do they have? For an example, here in the U.S., we have what is called quotas. So if you are going to bring cheeses from France, for an example, hey, you need to look first if this cheese is allowed to get into the US, and if other importers brought that cheese in the US within a certain period of time. So it's a need to make lots of, or the shippers or the importer of records, they need to do lots of uh, homework before they decide to ship anything.
What is first of all, why is meat and cheese always like the hardest thing to like why is that the one thing that every country's like, no, you can't bring it in? Is it just because of like why is that always like the hardest thing?
I don't see the meat and cheese. There are other commodities like garments, for an example. The US has a quota for, let's say, cotton t-shirts. And there was, I read something, I had something actually like a long time ago when one of the countries actually wanted to ship uh, a ready-made t-shirts while their quota been consumed, so they were not allowed to do that. So there are lots of things that's being controlled.
Well, then just kidding. I take back my meat and cheese statement. It just seems like that's the one that always gets stuck, but yeah, I t-shirts seem like a weird one. But
It
hey,
is. It
you
is.
know?
Yes, it is. Imagine we here in the US, we in addition to a lots of commodity that we export outside. One of the things that was really weird for me to see that we export like sea cucumbers. We used to do that from Seattle, Washington. Have you seen the sea cucumber? That creature? It's being shipped to Japan and to China.
That seems like a really specific thing to okay, I didn't know there was such like a boom for sea
It's
cucumbers.
it's not a boom. It's not a boom. But we ship that. We ship that.
That's okay. I just didn't think that was like a big export of ours is sea cucumbers to Asia. But you know, the more you learn, the more you know. Um, that being said, what is the obviously if I need it shipped and like if I need to send it like yesterday, it's like and I want to get it there as fast as possible, obviously that's going to be the most expensive route. What is like what is the most expensive mode for that like on that like freight forwarders use? Like I'm assuming it's air, right?
Absolutely air. Yes, it's air. And of course you need to pass through some obstacles to make sure that you the most important commodity that we send, and the customer would come and say, hey, I need this yesterday. is what we call the AOG, aircraft on ground. You need to imagine if there is an aircraft uh, stuck somewhere in the world because they need a windshield, they need a tire, they need a nut, little nut like this, and it must be sent immediately. So we need to find a way to get this done on the next flight out, and have someone at the destination with customs clear it and deliver it to the requester in no time.
So what you're saying is airplane delays are the worst, not just for you trying to fly on vacation or for you to make a business meeting.
Absolutely, spare parts could be a major reason for the delays. Yep.
Man, I feel like that would be like a horrible call of like, oh, this flight got delayed. And you're like, cool, well, how long is it going to be delayed? And can I find another flight for it to go on? Or do I just hope that they happen to have this random like nut sitting around to put on this bolt?
Both situation could happen. If they have it, it could then there will be no delay. If they don't and they need to get this shipped to them, yeah. Other things that we used to do as well, the what do we call it, vaccines. Let me put it this way, as simple as this. Cruise ship line, they require medical equipment, medical. So imagine that they stopped in Marseille and they are out of kind of a vaccine that needs to be shipped to them immediately. We need to have that picked up from the manufacturer here and send it all the way. In no time, it should be there. Yeah, there are lots of fun actually in our job.
I mean, fun is the term I would use loosely. But I mean, it's kind of that draw of logistics, right? Everyone that's stuck in logistics doing everything here, we love a challenge. We love a puzzle. We're the ones that like there are days where I miss sitting there getting the phone call of like, "Hey, this shipment just got completely messed up. What are we going to do about it?" And that's when you're like, this is my time. And you take like 5 minutes to get your life together and then be like, all right, here's the new plan. This is what we're doing. Boom, 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 boom. Because those are the fun days when you're sitting there like, am I laughing or crying yet? I don't know. Things just keep going wrong. But it's like kind of also the type of personality that logistics attracts and like all of the supply chain attracts is those like, we'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out.
We are. I mean, it's no problem won't be resolved. And here is the slogan that I use always: you can do whatever that you want as long as you have people to support you and get your shipment moving anywhere around the world.
Yeah, it's going to be expensive, but you can make it happen.
Exactly.
How badly, because it's like that we can do this, but how badly do you want it? Because that price tag's going to hurt.
Exactly. Everything is possible as long as you have the means and you are willing to pay for it and willing to, when do you want it there.
Exactly. Um, Speaking of the means to make anything possible, uh, I mean, there's a question that everybody comes on the show is having to answer now, and it might be harder than the entire breaking down the freight forwarding thing that we've just done. So if you had to build a house out of any food, what would you choose?
I don't want to return that question back to you. What's the most food that you like? But let me put it this way: I love chocolate, so I guess that house would be made of chocolate. But I guess by the end, before I finish building that house, I will be eating all the chocolate that's made of it.
Your house is like construction on the highways in the summer. It's always ongoing because you're just eating it. Except I would like to think that the construction workers aren't eating asphalt because that would be disgusting.
Or maybe something to be stable. I would think of again, a house made of breadsticks and some cheeses, and then here is the snack time.
I like it. Would you have, if you had a house not made of chocolate, would you at least have like a chocolate fountain out front?
I've loved chocolate. I could die for chocolate. I could die for chocolate.
I like it. We haven't had a chocolate house yet, so I'm on board with it. I'm on
Let's
board with
do it.
it.
Let's do it.
Um, All right. So if anyone has any questions on maybe the best floor plans for a chocolate house, or if they have a great chocolate fountain recommendation, or if they are like, hey, we have no idea what we're doing with freight forwarding, where can they find you outside the show?
Do you want me to give my email address, my phone number? I can give you our website.
Whatever your heart desires.
Our website is www.fwd-now.com.
Fantastic. You guys heard it here. Go check out Iman's website. You can find him. He'll happily answer all of your freight forwarding and possibly chocolate recommendation needs.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for joining us today.
Appreciate the time and appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much.
Find Check Out the Podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, like Apple Podcast and Spotify. Don't forget to check out all the other incredible FreightWaves shows, and don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter on freightwaves.com/checkcall. See you on the internet.